Welcome, brick fans, to Terrascal Bricks. You'll have to let me know if I'm a little loud or quiet this time. I've got a different um, mic setup this time because of the last few couple videos. I noticed my gain was a little high, so you'll have to let me know if I sound a little loud or not. No answer yet. That's okay. All right. Well, today we are going to be building set 6590, which is the vacation camper. I'll bring that up here. If you go to brickinstructions.com, you can actually bring this up yourself. Just search for 6590 there, and it'll bring up this set. So this is the set we'll be building today. Um, this is one of the very first sets that I also built as a child, and so it has a lot of memories for me, and brings back a lot of uh, thoughts from back then, and childhood happiness from back then. So okay, good, sounds fine, excellent. All right, so this is the set we'll be building. Again, you can go to brickinstructions.com and type in 6590 in the search feature to bring up the set instructions yourself if you want to follow along. Oh, I just realized I didn't transition that. So this is the what we're looking at. Again, brickinstructions.com to search for 6590. I didn't realize I didn't transition that over. I just woke up a half hour ago. All right, transitioning back. And as per usual, um, I've got uh, some isometric views here. I've got a top-down view for the build. I've got a isometric view, and then I've got a view of the pieces um, after I go to dump them out here in this glass bin. So, if there are no immediate questions, we'll get started. Let me bring up the instructions myself. Okay. And again, this set was released in 1988. It is a part of the classic town theme. Um, Interestingly, and you'll see this as we go through, this set has a combination of two different wheel types. Um, some of the really old Lego wheels from the late 1970s and the early 1980s, and then the later 1980 wheels. And we'll see that as we go to build it. We'll start with the minifigures first. So we have the minifigure heads, which again are solid stud on top and are just smiley faces. They were pretty basic back then. And then we have a pair of red pants for one, white pants for the female, red striped shirt for the male, black hair for the female, and then I think a red baseball cap for the male. Yes. So again, these are not my original minifigure pieces. I actually had to backfill these due to the fact that mine had super worn patterns on them. They were barely missing or barely showing anything on the face. They were missing quite a bit of their pattern. They had cracked arms again that allowed the arms to pull out really easily. Even this minifigure You could see there's a little bit of sun damage on it. The white, which is supposed to be here, is a little bit of pink. Even on the back, the colors melded a little bit, but that is the best I could find. Reasonably priced. Anything newer was way too expensive to try to get for just this simple set. So, put them together. There we are. Basic minifigures. Nothing super special about them. I'll set them to the side. Okay. All right, now to get building on the set. So the first thing that the instructions start with is the car, the vehicle that's towing. So it starts with a black base plate. I just realized this is a little low, but that's okay. This is the basic car base plate from around that time. It was used fairly heavily from, I would say, the mid 1980s until even until the late 2000s, and they might even use it in some instances today, but ever since they started using the snap wheels, this has become a fairly common part. So then they started using these steering wheels, which is the start of step 2. So step 1 was the base plate alone, and then step 2 incorporates the steering wheel, and then 2 1x3 white plates, and then those are placed on either side of the steering wheel, like so. Alright, step 3 is basically a 1x4 white plate, a 2x3 blue plate, 2 1x1 red or trans red plates, which act as the rear lights in this case. And then the hitch. So this would be considered a 1x4 plate modified with hitch, or ball socket, basically. And that's how the trailer is attached to the back of the vehicle. And so this step incorporates a mini step series of building this first, like so, and then attaching this to the back of the vehicle. Step 4 requires another mini build step of 3 steps, using a bracket. They consider this a bracket. I believe it's like called a 1x2 by 1x4 plate bracket, something along those lines. They use these a lot for headlights and rear lights in a lot of sets. And that's exactly what what they're using it for in this set. So this front bracket will be holding the front lights and the grill. So it has a 1x2 grill, and if you notice, this one is without a groove. That one was specific for this set. The early 80s, late 80s, they made these grills without a groove at the bottom. Again, you know, limitations probably on the die made it so that they probably couldn't stick that groove there, or it was determined later on the groove was advantageous for pulling the piece off easily. But grills nowadays, and ever since the mid 90s, have a groove on them. Right here underneath on the bottom side, which makes them easy to pull off when need to. And then you have two 1x1 trans clear plates, which act as the lights here. And so we place them. Oh wait, I think there's one more piece. Yes, a 1x4 blue plate. And then this blue plate goes on the bracket first, and then the clear lights on either side. And then the grill in the middle. And then that goes onto the front of the vehicle. Step 5 now adds the doors and mud guards for the wheels. So we'll grab those. So I'll grab two, and these are considered card mud guards. They're basically 2x4 mud guards is what they're called, and they're blue in this case. And then two doors, 1x3 doors, right and a left. That's basically what that is, and also blue. And I believe that is it for step 5. Yes, so we'll add those on. No, I take that back. We missed something in step 4. In step 4, we also missed a 1x2 blue plate that went behind the bracket here. There we go. Okay, now step 5. We place the mud guards on over the wheelbase, and then the doors on each side. Step 6. Yeah, I magnified it more on my tablet here. Hopefully I won't miss another piece on another step again, but step 6 is another 2-step mini build. So that one has a 1x4 blue plate, and then two 1x1s blue plates, and then a 2x3 blue plate. And then included in step 6 is also another 1x4 blue plate. And so the mini build is just 2 steps, and it snaps the 2x3 onto the 1x4, and then the two 1x1s on either end. And that gets snapped on top of the front of the vehicle as the hood, and then the 1x4 is placed on the back above the hitch. Step 7 now adds the windscreens. So there are 2 of them in this case. We have a trans clear 2x4x2 windscreen that is angled, so it would be sloped, and then a 2x4x2 windscreen that is rectangular. And then in addition to that, for step 7, we have 2 1x1 blue plates. Here's the last one. So the front windscreen goes on like so. the back windscreen goes on in the back here, and then these two 1x1s are placed here. These rectangular windscreens aren't used anymore. I haven't seen them in any modern sets probably since the early 90s. I think they've not used them in any sets since the early 90s. Cars and vehicles got more sleek, and so they typically stopped using these rectangular windscreens after that. So, yeah, you won't see those very often. Step 8 has a little mini build. This will be the roof, that includes a like a moon roof or sunroof, and allows the minifigures to get in and out. So we'll grab the 4x4 roof piece that has a 2x4 hole in it, and then a 1x4 blue hinge. And then we also have a 2x1 and a 1x2 blue hinge set piece that snap together like so. And they get placed here. And then I also forgot the actual sunroof. So there's a trans clear sunroof that gets placed, snapped in the middle like so. And you can see that the sunroof is able to open and close. It gets attached to the hinge piece and then placed on top of the vehicle like so. Step 9. So step 9 looks like it just adds the minifigure into the car, and then a 1x4 white tile. That is what's considered this piece. So it's basically a it's basically a plate without studs, and smooth, and that gets placed here. And in this case, I would say it is definitely not a spoiler for this type of vehicle. Trust me, I don't think this family has a spoiler on their car. But more than likely, this is a windbreak for the camper behind them to help save on gas, because they are economical. Put him in there. Oh, and then the wheels. And so the wheels in this case are 4 gray, and there's a certain size to them. I'd have to look up what the size is. They're in millimeters. I'd have to try to remember that for next time. But these wheels just snap in to the little areas right here onto these little clips that again have a gap in them and are slightly expanded on the very edge to allow for them to hold the wheel in place. And these were the newer style wheels around that time. Again, this set incorporates both the old style and the newer style from then, and you'll see that here on the trailer. So this is the towing vehicle completed. So that is the towing vehicle, the front. And so we'll put that to the side. You can see that in the isometric view now. onto the trailer. Step 1 for the trailer is a 2 by 12 red plate to start as the base. And step 2 adds in 2 red 2 by 4 mud guards for the wheelbases, and then 2 2 by 4 red plates on either side of those. And they are placed here accordingly. You think it should be a spoiler? Well, I think it's facing the wrong direction for that. I don't know. I could adjust it a little bit more. It's yeah. Yeah, the wheels around this time and in the number of sets from the early 80s and late 80s, early 90s definitely were very tiny. But that's because the vehicles were tiny. Once Technic was introduced, they started making larger wheels. They did have larger wheels as well of this style, and it was basically those two sizes. I don't have an example in front of me to compare, but it was basically this size and that other size for wheel types for the most part for many years. But once Technic was introduced, they started really putting in many different sizes and different types. All right, continuing on step 3, if you're still following along, it looks like we have 4 1 by 2 red plates. So I'll grab those. And then a 2 by 2 red plate modified with a tow ball. And that would go onto the front of the vehicle. Or trailer in this case. And then these 1 by 2 red plates are snapped onto the side here. My goodness, this new mic, I can hear the snaps of the pieces a lot better. I guess that's a good thing. Step 4 adds in a 1 by 2 by 1 red slope with a grill pattern on it. And again, I can tell you this is not my original. My original was very faded. I still have it, but it was very faded. And yet again, I forgot to, I blame my waking up just half hour or so ago, but I meant to grab my older piece to show you how worn it looked, but I will try to remember to do that for my next build. Either way, it calls for that red slope, and then 2 by 2 by 1 inverted slopes is what those are called, and then 2 1 by 8 red plates. So those there. The slope goes on the front. The inverted slopes go on the back here. And then the 1 by 8 red plates go onto the edges. Step 5 adds in some color, finally, so it breaks up the red. We have a 1 by 4 white plate, 2 1 by 6 white plates, one 2x3 white plate, one 1x4 white tile, again, no studs in the top, and then one 1x2 white tile, and also a 2x2 by 1 blue brick. So the two 1x6s are added onto the right side of the vehicle, the passenger side, like so. And then this is added onto the back. The two tile pieces are added on the driver's side here. And then the 1x4 there. And then the blue brick is added right here in the middle. Step 6 adds in the windscreens and some cups and a tap. So I'll show that. So it calls for 2 more of the rectangular 2x4x2 windscreens. And then 2 minifigure utensil cups. We'd always lose these as kids. Those would always get lost. They were small enough to get knocked into anywhere. And then, of course, a blue tap. That's what they call that. So the blue tap gets added in right here to act as like a little water spigot on the back of the camper. And then the windscreen goes around that. The front windscreen goes on the front here. And then these 2 cups are positioned opposite each other, like so on the blue brick. Step 7 for the trailer now adds in some more of the sides. So we have 3. These would be 1x2 by 2 white panels. And they're called panels because they are not solid the whole way through. They're very thin on one side. So we have 3 of those. And then we have 2 1x2x2 trans clear panels that act as windows in this case. And that looks like it for step 7. So the solid colored white panels go on either side like this. The 2 clear go in the middle on the passenger side. And then the last solid one on the passenger rear, like so. And I believe the reason that this side's left open right now is because it's going to be like a door to open and close to be able to easily access the minifigures inside, and that's why that one's not being put in just yet. But that's just going off my memory, so we'll see. Step 8 adds in some parts of the roof. So we have, it looks like 2 1x2 red plates, 2 1x3 red plates, 2 1x1 red tiles, again, no stud on the top, and then 2 1x1 red plates to act as the rear lights for the camper. The brake lights, basically. And they decided to stick these on the top, interestingly enough. So one of the 1x2 plates goes here. The two 1x3 plates go on either side of the front, like so. One of the 1x1 tiles go there. The other one goes on the opposite side, like so. And then we have the two brake lights going here. And then the other 1x2 red plate going there on the back. Step 9 is now adding the actual roof pieces. Not all of them, but a few of them. So we have a 3x4x1, and technically it's I think it's considered a 1/3 slope because it goes up 1x3. So, and that is a white slope there, and then two 1x2x1 by 1/2 slopes, white slopes. And that is it for step 9. So they get added, the 1/3 slope gets added in the front, and the 1/2 slopes get added in the back, like so. Step 10 has a 3-step mini build in it. This basically forms the rest of the roof. And it's not a door, it's like a DeLorean. So it opens up from the top. You'll see that here in a second. So we have two trans-clear 1x2x2 trans-clear panels, and then we have a single 1x2x2 white panel. We have a 1x4 red top hinge plate, a 4x4 white, and I think this is considered technically a modified brick with a roof slope, but I can't remember which category that one actually resides in off the top of my head. And actually there's 2 of those, it looks like, and 2 of the hinge plates. And then lastly, a 1x6 red plate. And so the mini build calls for these hinge plates to be attached to the bottom of these roofs, like so. And then these panels get lined up, placed under the 1x6, like so. And then the roof plates are placed on top of that, connecting to that. So, and then you could see that this will hinge out when placed on top of the camper. So that was the idea. So this goes on, slides in the camper. Get it to line up. Come on. This panel here in the middle does not want to snap in. There we go. It's just slightly out of alignment. There we go. So, like I said, like a DeLorean, the camper roof opens up. All right, step 11 adds the wheels and the, oh goodness, the name for this piece eludes me all of a sudden. It's It's what holds a trailer up when it's not attached to a truck. I don't know why I can't think of the name. I'll just grab. Maybe I can think of it as we go. So it calls for the other wheels. So we have these wheels. Now, like I said, this build incorporated both styles. So these are the older wheels that were popular in the late 1970s, early 80s. These cannot be taken apart. Well, not easily. You can technically pry these wheels off, but not easily. As you can see, there's a metal bar that attaches both wheels together through a black plate or a plate in general. They could be different colors. To get that out, the only way to get that out without breaking the plate is you'd have to pop one of the wheels off and slide it out. And this was the way older sets had their wheels done. And a lot of times, what would happen is two things. One would be over time, especially if they were in a house with carpet, hair would get caught up in the wheel and spun up in there like a vacuum, and you would have to unwind it out. That was very much a thing, especially if you had a sister like I did with very long hair. The other thing that occurs over time is the metal bar starts rusting, and that rust will not spread to the plate, but you'll get some of that rust dust on the plate, and it just makes it look ugly. And I've got some of those in my box. I can show an example of that later, but yeah. So this is an example of the older style wheels, where the wheels are like permaset together, and they there were two different sizes of wheels. There were some different color ones. They came in white, they came in red. I think they had yellow ones, so they had different colors. But there were a large size and then this size. This was considered the smaller size. Trailer jack. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, that maybe. I don't. I know there's a name for it. It's because obviously trucker. It's the same thing that would be on the front of the trailers of you know tractor trailers, but it's the feet basically. The feet for the trailer. That's all I'm gonna refer to it as. Anyway, um, so we have the wheels, and then we have a I'm sorry, a 2x2 black plate, a two 1x2 hinge plates with two teeth, the feet for the trailer is what again I'm gonna call it because I can't remember. Then we have two 1x2x1 inverted red slopes. And that is it, it looks like, for step 11. So we're going to go ahead and attach those now. So the wheels go underneath the mud guards like so. And then the black plate there. The two hinges right in front of that. And then the feet get snapped in right there. And then these two inverted slopes go on either side of the front of the trailer, like so. And then the trailer can sit with its feet down, like a normal camper. Step 12 adds in just two pieces. It adds in a 2x2 trans clear tile. This piece is actually very rare. I think this might be the only set that uses this piece. And let me verify that. I'm going to pull up Bricklink right now. Because I believe when I looked it up, I don't think there was another set that used that piece. So let's see, 6590. And again, if you want to know how to look up how parts and whatnot on Bricklink, I have a YouTube video on how to do that. Find parts and then find the associated sets with those. So let's see, there's 306 to 8. And then yep. This is the only set this trans clear plate appears in. There are other sets that have other colors of this, but this is the only set with this trans clear plate. So, like I said, a very rare piece because this is the only set with it. I'm going to go back to my instructions. And the only reason I knew that ahead of time is I had to buy one. Mine was missing. So I found out the hard way that this one was rare. I think I had to pay like $2 just for that piece or something like that. Yeah. So it is that 2x2 trans clear plate, and then an antenna and base, white base. So black antenna, white antenna base, and they get attached to the trailer. This antenna gets attached between studs, which is again a technique that's not used very often anymore. Most of the times, if they want to do that, they now use a plate with a stud in the center to then attach things like this, instead of planting a round item in the middle of studs. But this was a common technique back in the 80s. So, and then the trans clear plate goes right there. I'm assuming to act as a, like a window to the camper, even though it really physically isn't. But it's what your imagination was for. So, and then last but not least, there is no step 13, but they didn't show the suitcase, I don't believe, with the minifigures at the top. Yeah. So there was also a light gray suitcase that came with the set. And these suitcases, as you can see, are functional. They opened up. The issue with them, though, is they will only open up so many times, because once they hit a certain number, and I don't know off the top of my head what that number is, this plastic right here will wear to the point where it'll snap and break, and then that will not open again. At least not bend open. You could still use it and close it and have them carry it around. You just can't open and close it together like it was intended to. So best to leave these closed and not use them for that reason. But basically the minifigure can carry them in their hand like so with their luggage. And if I show this now on the isometric with the trailer attached to the camper, we can see she doesn't need to kick her leg out that much. She's not a Nazi. There we go. How's that look? Yeah. Yep. So that is set 6590 vacation camper. I don't know how many of you had ever been in campers like this growing up. I think my grandparents on my dad's side always had RVs, not a pull behind camper. No, I take that back. They did, because he pulled it with his van. So, I did experience being in a camper like this. Absolutely had. Now I remember because it had no air conditioning. Yeah, like you comment there, just a fan at the top for ventilation, and a little antenna for analog black and white TV, and that's basically it. And you can go camping in it if you want. Typically, I think it was a lot of work to set up and deal with when you the real camper, of course. It was a lot of effort and work and stress, in my opinion. But either way, I was too young to have to deal with it, so I guess I got away with not having to deal with the stress. And I hold their arms out just right. You know? There. Is that better? I can. I think I can even zoom in on them. Give me a second. Yep. There you go. All right. Well, that'll conclude my video for tonight. Since it's a little later than I wanted it to be, I will pick the next video if nobody decides that they want another one, and we'll go from there. All right. Thank you all for showing up, and I'll release this on YouTube for your viewing leisure if you missed it, and we'll catch you all in the next one. Thanks.